His opponents crucified him for his many trips, which they considered pointless. He was accused of being pathologically slow when it came to making urgent decisions. He wasn't missed either, being called naive because he didn't withhold his smile or turn a deaf ear to his enemies. The unconscious and the social media missteps made him a subject of mockery, and he laughed along with them. However, his many trips were motivated by the initiation of active diplomacy. He worked hard to meet with Rwanda's sponsors and partners who had been lured by Paul Kagame for 31 years. And after a 5-year term and 2 years of his second term, Felix Tshisekedi managed to change the narrative of those who nurtured and strengthened Paul Kagame. And so, the man the world considered a Pan-Africanist and a builder of a modern Africa through his native Rwanda turns out to be a wolf in goat skin who plundered the DRC's wealth in its eastern part, and whom the tears shed for the 15 million Congolese killed and 2 million displaced by the M23 and its allies could not shake. Today, the fallout from these trips reveals to the world a Kagame with a plaintive face and insulting tongue. In short, a man with a frustrated profile. And so, all those who served Kagame all these years are trying to throw him a lifeline. Corneille Nangaa, former president of the CENI, fled the country without being threatened. William Ruto, who has connections with Paul Kagame of Rwanda, facilitated the launch of the AFC rebel movement. As the days passed, Joseph Kabila, former president of the DRC, who also fled the country without being threatened, came to the rescue of his master, Paul Kagame, who was in difficulty. The puzzle was completed, and the people discovered that the slowness of President Tshisekedi was a political strategy that accomplished the unbolting of the Kabila system, the discovery of a huge mafia with Kabila, a Rwandan citizen, according to Jean-Pierre Bemba, former Minister of Defense and current Minister of Transportation. The former Congolese Army Chief of Staff Christian Chiwewe, who became a military advisor to President Tshisekedi, is under arrest, joining the list of those who tried to remove Felix Tshisekedi from power through a coup d'etat, such as Christian Malanga, who also seemed to be on good terms with the Sanko, which Sanko revealed itself to be the defender of Paul Kagame's mafia, relayed by Joseph Kabila, Moise Katumbi, Martin Fayulu, and other small groups behind them. Thus, Felix Tshisekedi is not naive, but rather a diehard whose time is finally proving him right. All this would not have been known if he hadn't formed the FCC Cash Alliance, if he hadn't called Paul Kagame my brother as he approached him more closely, if he hadn't recently received Martin Fayulu, even though the latter had refused his outstretched hand the other day, if he hadn't opened the door to the Sanko, knowing full well that it doesn't want him at the helm of the country. Tshisekedi's greatness lies in ending a 30-year war with a pen and a paper against an armed aggressor. Paul Kagame knows that the end of this war is his end. Those he used to give this war a Congolese face are now turning the tables on him. A wasted effort because the peace deal signed in Washington by the foreign ministers of the DRC, Therese Kayukwamba Wagner, and of Rwanda, Olivier Nduhungire, under the supervision of the United States, and the final signing that will take place in a few days at the White House between the presidents of DRC, Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, and the Rwandan Paul Kagame, under the watchful eye of American President Donald Trump, marks the end of a 30-year-old infiltration system planted by Paul Kagame and watered by Joseph Kabila. And when the system falls, according to world history, it does not fall alone. Rather, it takes its roots with it, and the main root here is called Paul Kagame. Hi there.